join us, and I think it's time we kick-started the event. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amina Koza. I am a technology sales representative at Oracle. I'm also the Oracle Women in Leadership leader for the South Africa chapter. Thank you for taking your time this afternoon to join us in this event for PAICTA, for Women in the Digital Era. This session obviously is coming from the session that we had at the beginning of this month when we celebrated Women's Day on the 8th of March. Today, we've taken a number of the items that we've discussed, and we've decided that both in our partnership, we are not going to be a talk shop, but we're going to put things into action. And part of that journey is with this partnership is us starting with addressing the subject around the technopreneurship. And I'd like to welcome you. You're welcome to ask questions via the chat, to raise your hands. Just housekeeping rules, please keep yourself on mute if you're not talking. Would like to see all of you on video where possible. So thanks for joining the session. So just to kickstart the session, we would like to start off with a poll. So the first question that we're going to start off with is, are you a technopreneurship or an entrepreneur as you join this call today? If you're still thinking about it, do let us know. As it stands, it looks like we've got 53% of our attendees in this call. There's 37 of us who are technopreneur or entrepreneurs. Okay. Okay. So the results that we did, obviously the exercises for us to actually establish the interest in the room and the kind of audience that we also are hosting in the room. So it's an interesting balance of 52% being entrepreneurs, which is a good north of 50, and 33% of us still thinking about it, and about 5% of us, 15% of us not. So thank you very much. I'd like to take you through the agenda for today. First of all, it's the opening and welcoming remarks. And then I will invite the leader of PAICTA, the Women in Digital Era leader, to give us a welcoming word and an update. Then we'll have a short conversation from an Oracle point of view, just giving you context of who we are as Oracle Women in Leadership and why we have partnered with PAICTA and PAICTA's partners to deliver this session today. And then we will move into our panel, where we will be talking about the subject matter at hand. And then I will introduce you formally to our panel, and we'll invite Ellie to do a chat around the startup and initiative that Oracle has available for entrepreneurs in the call and at large for the Oracle community globally. And then we'll chart the way forward and get closing remarks from the PAICTA team. So thank you. We can move on to the first point of the agenda. I'd like to ask Dr. Soma to kindly give us opening remarks, introduce yourself, and opening remarks about the PAICTA WiDE update.
I think she's unable to join us, so maybe you can just go into the Oracle Women's Leadership update. Thank you.
May I kindly ask Sonwabo to give us a quick update from PAICTA, just a welcoming word, and just give us a high level of what we're here to do. Sonwabo?
Yeah, let me confirm. Yeah, the video is on. Welcome everyone. Thank you for making time, taking out of your busy schedules. We appreciate the support. PAICTA was created or formed last year during COVID because of the need and the necessity and the importance of women in our continent and the rest of the world, that they've been left out of the tech world, and basically we felt we need to focus on women issues and address them, as we have adopted the slogan "Choose to Challenge." We're calling it "We Choose to Challenge." We've gone out and partnered with Oracle Women in Leadership in pursuit of achieving the mandate objectives that we've set in addressing and ensuring that women become part of the digital economy, full participants with equal to all other people or individuals that are active, which is men in the industry, to give them support, make sure that women are part of the digital training, they have become entrepreneurs. Those that have gone to universities, have gone to higher institutions, they've got the skill, ensure that they transition to be technopreneurs, and that can be done without a support, infrastructure support, mentorship, guidance, and hopefully after this series of webinars that we're going to be having. This is one of 2 or 3 webinars that we're going to be having as PAICTA WiDE with OWL in partnership. Then we're going to have a hackathon that is going to be women only. Post the hackathon, the winners and runner-ups, which is we're still finalizing the process and that we're going to be following. Either 1 or 2 groups that have come up with the hackathon are going to be mentored and will go into an entrepreneurship fast-tracked development to ensure that we've got new startups that are headed or led or owned by women by 2022, hopefully. This is a start of bigger things that we want to do in partnership with OWL and other partners that we have. OWL we've got other partners online, which is Forte University. We've got University of UJ of Johannesburg. And I think in a nutshell, without taking much time, we are here as partner. I'm here as a man who believed in sisterhood. I dream and I stress over issues that exclude women in the bigger picture of development or economy in the continent and in the rest of the world. I think, let me leave it like that. Thank you very much for making time.
Thank you, Mr. Mdwaba, for those comments. It's really, it indeed is a privilege for us as Oracle Women in Leadership to be in partnership with the WiDE chapter from a PAICTA point of view. Just to take you back to our agenda, I will touch base and give you a little bit of background on who Oracle Women in Leadership is, and also just touch on a couple of points that you have correctly highlighted as the areas that we would like to focus on. From an Oracle point of view, I'd like to perhaps take you through just a few salient points about our mission as Oracle Women in Leadership. So, oops, sorry. One moment, please. Okay. So our mission as Oracle Women in Leadership is obviously, one would assume that, you know, Oracle being a global organization and the world at large, that we have a lot of women in leadership. And it's such a great stride that we have our CEO as a female, but there are internal gaps within Oracle. And Oracle, when they founded the Oracle Women in Leadership chapter, the overall objective was to then make a pivotal decision internally to drive the agenda of female. So our mission within Oracle for Oracle Women in Leadership is to develop, engage, and empower current and future generations of women leaders at Oracle. And we do this, as I mentioned, we've been we started this as a grassroots effort in response to an overwhelming demand for female employees to be offered greater opportunities that can help enhance skills and develop their leadership position. So we've evolved and grown over the past couple of years, and our key focus areas remain to ensure that we develop global leadership internally as well as externally by fostering allies and relationships with organizations such as PAICTA, WiDE chapter, and our customers in the space, building our local Oracle Women in Leadership communities. Things we've done in the past is what it has been to build communities within our customer space, and we've had great success where we've engaged with other women and gathered key learnings from each other as a support structure, as a mentorship structure, but also impacting organizations in their own space. So the leaders that we've engaged with have gone and created programs internally that they are now driving to actually strategically position the subject of growing young leaders, women, youth, and fostering those relationships internally in their organizations as key objectives. And we also focus on fostering strategic partnerships. Just to take you through just our objectives, we aim to strengthen leadership capability and potential of our employees and women and females at large, to increase engagement and retention of females in the STEM community, because a lot of women come into these STEM related careers, but we also see them exiting these careers. Strengthen relationships internally for women within our organization internally, so that they can work with counterparts to allow them to grow, but also externally in our customer space, so that we can foster relationship that allows us to grow together and build stronger relationships in that space. But one of our biggest and our proudest thing that we've done over the past couple of years, especially as South Africa, is to really focus our attention in developing community, in developing the concept that we call it paid forward. So we're not only just focusing on people we work with in industry, but we go to grassroots communities and we start opening ideas and opportunities to young people about how they can participate in the STEM in STEM careers. What is exciting about our partnership with PAICTA and the WiDE chapter of PAICTA is the fact that we're going to focus on youth, females. We're not excluding the male counterparts. We're going to foster allies with our male counterparts and help grow with those youth. We're going to focus around how do we get young people excited about participating and actively pursuing careers in this space. And in relation to today's conversation, also focus on how we get females to get engaged in the entrepreneurial space. So in a nutshell, that's what we are doing, and it's really, really exciting. So that is basically the background of OWL and what we are working on at the moment. I'd like to take then this moment to also move on to the second piece, which is really the part where we get to interact and communicate with the executive panel. I will start introducing the ladies by asking themselves to just give us a brief of who they are, I will just call your name and then you can just step in. It's a conversation. Tell us who you are, what area, what sector you're in. Are you an entrepreneur? What pushed you or what motivated you to move into the entrepreneurial space? Just a short little personal intro, and then we'll go through the entire panel and then come back. Thank you. So I'll start with you, Dr. Mpho Raburife. Over to you.
Hi, my name is Mpho Raburife. I'm a computational linguist based at the University of Joburg within the Department of Applied Information Systems. Thanks.
Okay, I'll move over to you, Professor Jenna Matthews. Professor Jenna Matthews is joining us all the way from the US.
Hi, everyone. I'm so delighted to be here. My name is Gina Matthews. As Amina said, I'm a professor of computer science at Clarkson University. And I had a wonderful opportunity to be a part of the Open Innovations Conference in Cape Town in 2019. And it's a real joy to be back, even virtually. And I hope to be back in person again sometime. I put a link in the chat to that wonderful event from 2019 with a big shout out to so many wonderful talks that other people gave at that event, and also videos of the talk I gave. Again, thank you so much for having me.
Yep, there's a shout out for you on the chat from Hosanna. Lovely to see you again.
Hello, Hosanna. Yeah, there are pictures of his talk, and I think maybe even video of his talk from that event. So big shout out to him as well.
Okay, thank you, Professor Jenna. We'll go to Yashmita Bana, CEO of Ninka Technology Group.
Hi everybody, thanks for that. I'm Yashmita Bana. I'm the CEO of the Ninka Technology Group. And I think I can probably define myself as both an entrepreneur and a technopreneur. Having come from an engineering background, I think the road to technopreneurship as well as entrepreneurship has been very rocky. There should be no illusions about how easy this journey is, but very happy to be here today and to engage. Thank you.
Thank you, Yashmita. Moving on to you, Ellie, from Oracle.
Thank you, Amina. Good afternoon, everyone. Nice to see you all here. So as Amina said, my name is Ellie Mathenge, Strategic Initiatives Manager for Oracle, covering Africa. And my big task within Oracle is to get startups to join the Oracle for Startups program that is like no other. And I'll share more about that later. Thanks, Amina. Thank you,
Ellie. Professor Roxanne Pediretz, sorry for the pronunciation, I didn't get it right.
Prof P is fine, or just Roxanne's fine.
Prof P.
Cool. Roxanne Pedri from the University of Forte. I'm the head of department of the Information Systems Department.
Cool. Thank you. And last but not least, I'd also like to introduce Jenna. Your story is quite exciting and interesting. I read your bio. Would you please introduce yourself, and maybe we'll start the discussion with you to ask you, why did you take on this journey, and how has it been for you? What are the challenges that you are experiencing in this journey that you've taken to be an entrepreneur, or a technopreneur for that matter? Over to you, Jenna.
So me, okay. Thank you so much. Oh boy, that's a big question. I'm considering where to start. So I got my PhD at UC Berkeley in operating systems, distributed systems, so really infrastructure software. And over time, I've been involved with a number of startups and big companies, Intel and VMware and EMC, Greenplum, startup Digital Integrity. But mostly I've been an academic for most of my career, with industrial collaborations here and there, for which I'm very thankful. I would say that one of the big kind of evolutions for me over that time is when I first started in computing, I really saw it almost as a fundamental human good. Like it was automating tasks that were drudgery. It was giving voice to more people. It was connecting people. And over time, I've seen more and more how powerful things are powerful for good and for bad. And now I see a lot of instances of surveillance and manipulation, harm to human beings, harm to societies and democratic principles. And so I really want to fight for the role of computing to accomplish good and to control the ill with wise public policy.
Sure, that's really loaded. And how has your journey been? How has your journey been? I know you started off an academy. Would you like to take us a little bit through that?
So I've just really always loved the job title of basically learn cool new things and talk about them. I can't imagine a better job than that. And to be constantly in academia, you constantly have new students who come in, people who come to give talks. You know, I find that always learning and teaching aspect of academia really appealing. But I also, it's really important to me to have real impact on the world, to solve real problems that affect real people. And as an academic, I've had a lot of opportunities to do that. I'm really proud of the work that my team has done in the last year on criminal justice software and fairness and accountability in that area. Also, we have an amazing project that I would love to follow up with some of you on. Computational, I would love to know a computational linguist better. I'm so excited we're on the panel together because we have been working on bias in natural language processing, really observing that there's over 7,000 languages spoken on the planet and only 300 or so even have Wikipedia corpora, let alone excellent tools for processing. And if the NLP guided future is really only listening to people who are producing digital text in English, maybe in Chinese or a few other languages, that's a big problem. So maybe I'll put a few links in the chat for folks who might be interested in learning a little more about that. I don't want to take too much time in the panel, but those are some parts of my journey and some connections to other wonderful folks here on this panel.
That's wonderful. Thanks for sharing that with us. And guys, let's use the chat also to engage and ask questions, further questions. So we're keeping all platforms active. Last but not least, to introduce in our panel is Johanna Amunyela from Namibia, who's an entrepreneur who started an academy. So take us through a day in your life, introduce yourself, take us through a day in your life and that thing that made you make this decision and decide to go head on with it. Joanna, can you hear us?
I think she might have dropped, her network she might have dropped off. I guess we'll just wait for her to rejoin.
Cool. I think I'll go back to you, Yashmita, and just get a feel of what does it feel like to be in the technopreneur space? What are the characteristics of being successful in this space? And maybe just give us ideas of what are the barriers of entry to this sector, and maybe a high level idea of what do you do in your organization?
Okay, thanks for that, Amina. So if I think about being successful in this space, once again, I think every journey is a very individual journey. And it really depends very much on where you've come from, how your past has shaped you and the amount of, I call it grit, that you have to be a technopreneur and entrepreneur. I keep going back to the point about it not being an easy journey, and there should be no illusions. I particularly have a problem with certain programs that glamorize entrepreneurship and technopreneurship. We need to know, understand what the deep dark days are about as well. I mean, I feel like I'm a little bit crazy. You know, I'm not sure who said it, but somebody said you only look crazy until it works, you know, and then you're a genius. I mean, something like Uber, who would have thought? You know, something like Airbnb, who would have thought? You know, those are technopreneurs who have used tech to basically optimize the process, you know. So I think a little bit of craziness is needed. I have quite a lot of that. A lot of fluidity is needed because we're in a space that changes daily. So the comfort, being comfortable with change, I think is a really important characteristic to have as an entrepreneur or a technopreneur. And also being open to lifelong learning, like Jenna has said. I mean, I think that's vastly important as well. As a company, I mean, we're an end-to-end ICT company and we rest on 5 pillars. We do ICT security, managed services. Our tagline is bringing EQ into AI. And for me, EQ is actually one of the very big parts of being a technopreneur. We have a keen interest in AI ethics. I was listening to what Jenna was saying about doing good. And one of our pillars is Tech for Good. We have a foundation called the DIA Development Foundation that we support. And that foundation is really about bringing IoT and AI into the basic education space so that kids, and particularly children, girl children, can be exposed to technology at a very young age.
Wow.
So yeah, that's it.
That's great, because I mean, that's a very great example of how do we bring women into the ecosystem whilst we ensuring that we obviously remaining inclusive in the process. I mean, Mpho, from your point of view, being in the education space, other than through formal university, what other ideas or thoughts do you have about how do we then bridge the gap and bring women into the space?
I mean, outside of academia, I've worked in tech and I'm still a consultant in the tech space. And I'm also the founding fathers or mothers of the Technopreneurship Lab at UJ. And when we started this lab, so now Mr. Roni Mabukela is now the head of it. But when I came to UJ and then when we started and launched the lab, it was just to start giving students from first year a working and living lab space where they can see how technology meets with business, right? Which is the tenet of our department. But if we're being outside of that, if we're being honest, one of the things that hamper women is basically our very conservative attitude, right? We walk into a space to ask for funding, but we're always quite conservative. We tend to underestimate ourselves. There's very limited access to funding, or should I say venture capitalists tend to favor funding men more in terms of the startups. Number two, there's no network for support for women in startups, right? If you look at Silicon Valley or other startups like us in Cape Town, they're basically all boys clubs. So in order for us to be able to have an ecosystem that allows women to enter, first of all, the tech space, which is daunting as a woman to begin with, and also entrepreneurship on its own without even thinking about being a tech entrepreneur is also quite daunting. So we need to build an ecosystem that is conducive for women to enter and have access to funding, access to a system that allows them to collaborate, a sisterhood of network, and a set of skills that are needed to survive in the business space. I always say, if you're going to get into business, you need to be a bit of a shark. You know, you can't, we can't be conservative. We tend to downplay our achievements, right? And you can tell when we introduce ourselves. Prof Matthews just said, I'm Tina Matthews, but you can imagine if we were men, would say, I'm Professor Matthews, and I would have said, I'm Dr. Aborife. So we tend to also downplay our achievements, and that also impacts on how we are viewed when we enter this boardroom to ask for funding. And these are the things that we need to be cognizant of how the social system has raised a woman to be, and how we need to change our attitudes in order to compete in the business space and also the tech space.
I'm learning from what you are saying, and it's a recurring theme, whether we're talking about entrepreneurs, whether we're talking how women can grow their careers in corporate. And I'm seeing a recurring theme that says we are conservative in our approach. We're not bold. We're not coming out to be like that. But also, I'm hearing that the landscape has provided itself to create an uncommunicated barrier of entry for women. And I think it would be unfair to pose that question just to you, but I'd like to open the question up to the panel, and maybe Professor P, if you can also share your thoughts and your opinions on the barriers and the restriction that we set upon ourselves to in our entry as we enter into these areas. I mean, how do we enable those who are there, and how do we boldly, for those who are there, boldly say when we need funding to do strategic stuff, go for the big dollar and not be and really not be afraid to state our position. I mean, I'm just putting it out there in the panel. I mean, there's historical background issues. I mean, we've got Ellie from Kenya as well, and I'd like you to do that to respond as well, in terms of, does where we come from also have reason behind why we then behave or we are the way we are as it stands? I'll start with you, Professor P. Thanks, Dr. Mpo. That's very insightful.
Thanks, Amina.
Yeah.
Sure. You know, I think over the years, I've been in academia for 15 years, and I've seen how at first women were very underrepresented in our degrees. You know, you'd have a handful of young ladies coming through. It's shifting in the last few years, but I think those barriers, particularly for the students we have, are very precious from the family. Let's get you into the workplace. Stop mucking around. Let's become an accountant. That's a stable job. You know, and I think we've seen that, and often in discussions with students, I've heard that come from them, and so that's very concerning. I think when you think of entrepreneurship, there's inherent risk, and I think a lot of students are thinking of having a more secure environment and a more secure job space. From our degree, our third years do a full systems development project in their final year, their capstone project. And these, we don't find them clients as such. They come up with an idea and they implement a solution of their own. And what for me is quite sad is none of these move on beyond the university space. And why is that? There's no support network once they leave that they could carry on with these ideas that they've come up with and implement in their final year. And so they let go of that, and they go find a graduate placement program and they move into the workforce. And that's kind of creative spark left behind in their final year. Yeah.
That's quite a sad phenomenon to think about it. I mean, someone said the place with the greatest ideas is in the graveyard, because people have died with their ideas. And I see corporate becoming that second killer. It's bread versus this. I do believe that youth have got, to a certain degree, the space to take risk. I mean, we come from backgrounds where after university, everyone has sacrificed for you. Get a job, come back, look after us. We come from those kind of backgrounds, but we also come from, I mean, we see children from backgrounds that are great entrepreneurial ideas getting caught in this cycle. And yet we hear on a daily that there's no real, we need to create more entrepreneurs in order for us to create job opportunities. It's such a sad phenomenon that we're going through, and I'd like for us to unpack that. I'm sure you've got millions of dollars of ideas sitting in the papers that were submitted and left to book, to say, how do we change the landscape as females? I don't know if Joanna from Namibia is back on the call. Joanna?
Yes, I am.
Yes, thanks. So we missed you earlier. Can you please introduce yourself and just give us just a little bit background of who you are, why you chose to become an entrepreneur versus follow the rest of us into the corporate space, and what are the challenges that you experience, and obviously your local dynamics in Namibia would be different to what my dynamics are in South Africa. What inspired you?
Good afternoon, everyone. Apologies for having dropped off the call. My name is Joanna Munyela, and I am an entrepreneur / technopreneur, and I am also a full-time employee. So in the corporate world, I also dive into that. Professionally, I'm a senior software engineer. Part-time, which is now my entrepreneur role, I am a co-founder for Noi Coding Kids. And here I teach children how to write computer code and software, and we try to build robots, etc. Just to give you a brief background of what we do there. How I got into the space of entrepreneurship basically is to say, I found out locally in Namibia, not a lot of people really understood what developing software was or what to build a technology product entails. Mostly we use technology products, but not necessarily how to create or build solutions. And go home and my parents would ask, what do you do at work? And it was really hard to explain. It still is hard to explain. They still don't understand it. My son one day, so mommy, what do you do at work? So I tried to explain software engineering. And that's when the spark came. And I said, okay, what if I venture into entrepreneurship where I build an academy in which I teach children how to write software and to make sure that the future generations are basically catered to, and you don't find yourself only exposed to creating solutions at university level like myself, but necessarily from an elementary level. So in a nutshell, yeah, that's my journey.
So we're seeing young entrepreneurs coming from your side, from the young people that you're interacting with at the moment.
Yes, I have also partnered with ecosystem players like Dololo, and we look at also not necessarily building into, right now my current target market is very young. So the 9, 10, 11, 12, at most I have 17-year-olds. But yes, the ideas are there, just to answer your questions, the ideas are there. And eventually, I think I'd hope in 5 years' time would start yielding these results. But in the meantime, I also do partner with ecosystem players that are focused on building the entrepreneurial ecosystem, like Dololo, Launch Namibia. And what we do is I tech skills or basic tech skills just to understand how they can incorporate tech solutions within their businesses.
Wow, that's very inspirational. Thanks for sharing that with us. Give us some perspective in terms of the entrepreneurs that you've come across, obviously that you're working with across the continent, because you've got the breadth of working with entrepreneurs across the continent. Just a perspective from a Kenyan point of view, as well as your market that you've tapped into.
Okay, I'm from Namibia. So in Namibia, a lot of.
Sorry, Joanna. I was addressing that to Ellie. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
But yes, you're welcome to share your perspective. But we'll then pass the same question on to Ellie. Ellie, prep your answer over there.
All right. Apologies, Amina.
No stress. I think it's okay.
All right. In Namibia, due to the impact of COVID, we have seen a lot of interest in moving businesses online, and a lot of entrepreneurs are starting to look at how do they survive the current status of what's happening in the market, and hence the interest. So we do find a lot of people that are intrigued to want to know what's happening and how they can transfer their current processes into automated solutions. Roughly, that's what's happening on the ground from Namibia.
That's great. You've got a shout out on the chat. You can check it there from Nestori. I don't want to pronounce your surname incorrectly, but thanks for the comment. Just check the comment on the chat. People in Namibia are proud of what you're doing. Ellie?
So that's actually a good question. And you almost feel like there's a sense of urgency with startups, small, medium enterprises in terms of becoming tech-enabled or getting on a tech platform. Have I seen many women? There are few and far in between. This industry remains very male dominated. So if we do see women, the women will come along with the men in second roles, like maybe the COO or the CFO, and never the CEO. Yeah. The uptake of technology has been almost like a scramble since COVID. Before it was, it's nice to have, we'll move on to it, we'll figure out our funding. Now I'm seeing, like I said, a big necessity, a big rush, but we struggle with translating that solution into a platform so that it's marketable. So there are many elements to it. You know, you could have had a service that you're providing, but how do you make it digital and still be able to make revenue in a new way of doing business? So the task remains in figuring out how we do business post-pandemic and moving forward and still being successful.
Sure, that's a very interesting dynamic that you're bringing up into the discussion. Rufaro, I don't know, I saw a hand, but then it disappeared. I couldn't tell. It said Sullivan or something. Are we taking questions, or should I perhaps maybe go back to our panel and just pose the question openly to anyone? Just give me an indication, Rufaro, if you still have that hand.
It went up and went down very quickly, so I couldn't see.
Very
so
quickly.
If you have any questions, please raise your hand or put them in the Q&A or in the chat. Either way, please engage and feel free to pose questions or even add comments. So yeah.
Okay. So I'm also mindful of the time that we have, and I'd like to pose this question to the panel. Anyone who would like to answer this question, and maybe let me read it out, give it a thought for a second, and then let's give a 30-second response based on what you think and what your views are. So the question I'm going to pose is Technopreneur the future of startups? And if so, what is the best model to enable a conducive environment for the inclusion of women from rural, peri-rural, and urban areas to participate in this space? How do we generate ideas? We heard earlier from Prof. P that we generate ideas. There are many of these amazing ideas, but as soon as our young people leave university, those ideas stay there. We have hackathons. We've got a number of things, right, that we do. So I'd like to give it to the panel. Let me know if you want to go first. Otherwise, I'm going to start picking on you, and then we can just give us 1 minute view from your point of view. Is technopreneurship the future of startups?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you think, and everyone else, if you look at South Africa and Africa as a whole, we tend to be disillusioned to think that there is no digital divide, right? And therefore, we need to be quite mindful of when we define what is technology in terms of South Africa and Africa, and so that it's inclusive, right? One of the things that I've seen is that we tend to run towards mobile applications, right? And this is targeted at a certain type or class of people, which don't even make 50% of the population, of the population in South Africa, basically. So we kind of exclude the marginalized, people in rural areas, in the peripheral areas. And this in itself is a problem. So for me, we always need to go back to say, necessity drives innovation. There needs to be a need for whatever technology that you come with. Technology might be something as simple as a mobile kiosk where people go and find out when the next mobile clinic will be coming to their community. Something as simple as that. Because maybe they don't have the right infrastructure to be able to get these mobile apps. They don't have the money to buy the data. They don't even have the right devices, Android devices to upload and play with this kind of applications. And also, we also need to be mindful outside of the digital divide in terms of technological adoption and acceptance. Do people want this technology? And that's why we end up as academics having all these nice, beautiful ideas in our technopreneurship centers that students develop, but no one asks for them. So why are we developing something that we don't ask? So we need to find out what we want to solve, why do we want to solve it, and who are we solving it for? And then technology should be used to address that problem, not develop it and hope that someone will take it up and I'll make millions out of it.
Yeah.
So for me, I agree. So this is kind of, this is quite important even in terms of startups in South Africa. What are you trying to solve? Are you trying to be a multi-millionaire? Are you trying to have this proof of concept, get a venture capitalist and sell it and become a millionaire? Are you trying to be a social activist? Are you trying to solve certain problems within society? And who is your target market? And that will actually drive how you actually package your solution. Is it something as sophisticated as Namola app, which is targeted towards people who already have securities in their complexes and residential areas, who have trackers in their cars? Or are you doing a solution that allows people in Kailisha, where one police station is for 1 million people, to be able to also get access to this kind of services? And this is very, very important in terms of South Africa and Africa.
So the big question is the why question, right?
Exactly. Why and what?
That's what I'm hearing. Why are we doing it? What are we doing it? What are we going to resolve by doing what we want to do? We basically need to go back to basic. I'm hearing there. Yashmita, any contribution? And I'll come to you, Professor Matthews.
I really love what Dr. Mpoy is saying, because it speaks very much to our underlying ethos about tech for good. I've been actively searching for this young girl somewhere in Limpopo. I've heard about her, and she's developed an earring that would help with a little bit of a device that helps with gender-based violence, where it activates a signal. And I wish I could find this little girl. I often say that we need to go to the places. How do we include these people? We need to go down to the people. I believe that the cure for cancer is sitting in a little kid's head somewhere in a rural area. And we can have all of these incubations up here, but we need to take it to where the people really need it. So I really love Dr. Mpoy's idea. For us, it's about social impact. It's about recognizing how we can make a difference in somebody's lives. Another Tech for Good initiative that we're currently working on is a police reporting, allowing people to report crimes as they happen, and it's tying into this GBV concept that we are desperately looking for this little girl for, so that we can help her to take that concept further. So for me, it's taking the incubation down to the areas where it's needed and create a conducive environment there for them. I think ideas really come out of nothing. Ideas come out of observation, and ideas come out of working outside of your network of circle. We all probably have the same or similar ideas. But I believe if you go deeper into the rural and peri-rural area, you just sit around a campfire and understand what the issues are they are having, we could have some really incredible ideas about how to create social impact in South Africa.
So we have to be intentional about also finding these ideas. We need to know what we are addressing, Dr. Mpho. We need to know why, we need to know the what, but we also need to be intentional about finding this. I see, Ellie, your hand is up, but can I please go to Professor Matthews just to comment as well on the conversation, and then we'll come back to you, Ellie, and then we need to kind of wrap up the panel discussion, but I think we'll have an opportunity in the end during discussions to also just have a conversation in the panel. Please, we also welcome questions coming through the chat. So do continue to engage with our panelists through the chats directly or throw your questions in there. But let's we'll wrap up the panel discussion.
I'm learning so much from listening to everyone else on the panel. This is a really great discussion. I would love to say that I think when it comes to enabling conducive environment for the inclusion of women in rural, peri-rural, and urban areas, that one really important thing to remember is that technology is a powerful tool, but it's just one tool. And no one, women or anyone else, should forget their whole selves when they come to the table and all the other tools that you have. And I really love what Yasmita said about, great solutions come from observation. They come from observing problems to solve. And so when you are a woman or when you're anyone in an environment where you can see problems to solve, you have a great advantage because you see what can be done. And I'd also really like to echo what Dr. Mpho said about your motivation in coming to the problem. Do you want to make tons of money or do you want to serve others? And I think many people have been taught, maybe especially men, or especially, there's a lot of people in the world that have been taught to come to things with an extraction mindset, right? I want to take from you. I want to take the good idea. I want to make the money. I want to exploit. I want to get from you as little as I possibly, give to you as little as I possibly can and take everything I possibly can for myself. And I don't know about you, but I'm sick of that extraction mindset. I'm sick of more and more solutions and businesses built on that model. I would love to see more models, businesses built on solving problems for real people, leaving the world a better place, leaving others better. And I think that just in the way we are raised as women, we maybe have that service mindset taught to us more. That doesn't mean that men can't be taught that same mindset or that we all shouldn't come to the table with that. But exploiting and extracting others from others is just not the way we should be building a world that we can all live in happily, right? And I would love to, if I can, put a little shout out to the film Coded Bias. I don't know if any of you have seen it. It's an amazingly powerful film featuring the work of the amazing Joy Bulamwini. And the film actually shows her going to South Africa, interestingly, and commenting, and giving her lectures there, which I think you all might find very directly connecting and powerful. And guess what? The film is available to view for free from anywhere through Monday through our university. We're hoping a virtual screening that's available to anyone, anywhere. And there's a bunch of other events you're welcome to attend and register. You can attend even without registering for most of them, but I didn't even bother to make you register. I just put all of the direct watch information right in the chat. So I hope you'll take advantage of that. Really powerful film, so relevant to the conversation we're having today.
That's great, thanks. And I hope we'll be able to download this. I mean, there are questions coming from the panel, Dr. Mpho. Most of the texts are developed using English language as a medium of instruction. What is your view in this from a computation linguistic point of view? We can start developing tech languages in Sesotho and Zulu, etc. Azola Ngwekazi is saying, do people understand rural areas? Most people are not even computer literate. I tell you, there is a big need to go into those areas. And I know the issue with infrastructure. I'm looking for a company that is willing to do a pilot project in these areas. And I mean, we welcome more questions. Yashmita, it touches part of the subjects that you raised, the second comment. If you can, please respond through the chat. I would like to stop here, the panel discussion, and say, ladies, thank you so much for your contribution in the questions that we've addressed and the subjects that we've spoken about. There are ideas out there, a lot of ideas. Some of the ideas not necessarily addressing the problem, but then we just need to think about how we approach the process of generating the technopreneur type of business concepts and ideas. And there's an interesting point that comes out that says technology is a very powerful tool, but we shouldn't forget ourselves, and we should bring ourselves with into those engagement and into those discussions. And there's been various point of views in terms of what are also things that are forcing or challenges that are forcing us to actually abandon the ideas that we have, the issue of funding. And we've got a follow-up session coming where we're going to be talking about the funding element and how accessible is it to entrepreneur. So I'd like to stop here. Ellie, I know that you wanted to respond to this one, but I know that you also have a presentation that you will drop, and I think we will quickly step aside and go to a quick call. There's a question that Rufaro has in store for us. Rufaro, please ask the question.
The question will come up after Ellie has presented. It's related to what she's presenting, so it's fine.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. So Ellie, I think let's shoot straight to your presentation, and then you can address some of the points that you wanted to address. You know, like ladies, we multitask. As you're presenting, you also address some of the points you wanted to raise as part of your remarks as well to that discussion. But ladies, thank you so much. I appreciate your contribution. Please don't leave. Stay with us. In the end, hopefully we can get a chance to respond to those questions in the chat in our closing remarks. Ellie?
Yes, thank you. I mean, actually, I was going to respond to your question about innovation and how we keep innovation going. So one of the things I have experienced in my role is the ask to continuously do hackathons. And then we bring this together, brilliant developers on the table. We have them for the first time meet and work together. And then it ends there. So I have been refusing to support hackathons that don't have a post impact. So once the solution is built, what are we going to do with it? Do we have someone who will help fund and take this to the next level so it can actually go to market or actually serve the purpose? So I'm more geared and purposeful in only engaging in hackathons that are targeted with an end. So that if I'm having a hackathon and UNHCR is approached and they said, we want this hackathon to result in a solution that will help manage the refugees and we want to put it to use. So then we're like, makes our work easier, because then we can support this startup to build a solution that's fully grown. It can scale, it could probably be used all over UNHCR and has impact. So my request is, if we ever get the opportunity to get into a hackathon, ask the end game. What is the end game to support this developers who are coming together? The other angle is to actually then work with startups or small medium organizations who are already set up. They have a working dynamics going on, and then have them address certain issues. Like we did one with the Central Bank of Kenya together with the government of Singapore, and we were addressing issues around fintech. And so those were targeted, but again, it leaves that end of where these startups find the finance to continue with this great innovation, and who takes them along in their journey. So that is the way we continue innovating, but we have to continue innovating and helping these people see the end game and not just using their resources and time with something that ends up just being put on the shelf. So I am quickly going to go through our Oracle for Startups program.
Whilst you do that, Ellie, I'm going to say to Mr. Sonwabo Mdaba, you got that, right? We've got a hackathon lined up for the youth. And I think we've got a challenge there from Ellie.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry you saw me smiling because it is got an end objective in mind. We have one for youth and it's women only. We'll have one, actually we've got one that is male and female. Then we've got a follow-up on that one, taking all women out, getting them into a Oracle masterclass. Then afterwards going to a women only, which is the final is going to be on Women's Day, South Africa Women's Day on the 9th of August.
Great. So I look.
Sorry, Ellie, with that, post that, then we'll have a mentorship program and tech entrepreneur development path or route that we're going to be taken with an end date and quantifiable, and we can get back then and announce it and say this is what we've achieved, and it will be measurable.
Yeah. So we don't do talk shops and generate ideas for book, right? Great, thanks, Ellie. Let's hand over to you. I'm going to ask.
Fantastic, Amina. I like that. We have to help this startup see the end and not just have them, or these developers do activities and then we're not helping them bring their great innovation to fruition. So it has to get to some use. So I do hope that we're going to do that at the end of that, initially more because we're targeting women. So I will go through this as fast as I can. It's the end of the day. Some of you have been sitting at your desks all day. You're exhausted. But Oracle is really passionate about startups. And I want to say that we are latecomers to this game, and Oracle is notorious for being latecomers. But we see it as a good thing, because what that allows us to do is look at what has been offered and bring something better to the landscape. So our Oracle for Startups program is 3 years old, and we know when our startup program meets you, the startup, you are scaled for enterprise and our customers win. So our mission is to help people see data in new ways, discover new insights, unlock endless possibilities, with the ultimate goal being to delight our customers and employees with Oracle Cloud. So we are a cloud company. I put this information on my slides because I end up talking to a lot of people who don't know Oracle. So it's unfortunate. So we are a multinational, recently moved our headquarters to Austin, Texas. We are purely a sales technology company with a big focus on cloud, and unashamedly and apologetically so. We were originally very big on database technology, but we have evolved. We now do cloud engineered systems, enterprise software products, and of course, our DB. So I share this story all the time to show startups that we were a startup. We were a startup some 44 years ago. And it just goes to show that we still celebrate good things with cake eating. You know, so in 1977, they had cake, they had a sugar high. We do that even now. So we've not really evolved that much as people, but we celebrate things the same way. And there you see our CTO and chairman, Larry, with his partners in 1977, celebrating our first customer. So this is just a little bit of factual detail you can find on our sites about who we are. We're a $40 billion revenue company with 430,000 customers in 175 countries. We have a big partner base of 20,000 plus partners, more than 135,000 employees. We've put in 70 billion in research and development, and that's because also we are latecomers in everything, so we have to leapfrog. So we've recently rolled out the autonomous database, and with that, we clap and hire ourselves because of making this something innovative. And so all this, again, is information you can find on our site. So our startup programs, as I said, is only 3 years old, and we've been working so hard. And that's because Oracle has not been known to be a startup friendly organization. So we hit the ground running in 2017. In Africa, we have enrolled 50 plus startups. EMEA, where Africa of course sits, 600 plus, and globally 1600 plus startups. So this guy, and may he rest in peace. Unfortunately, he passed away. His name is Reggie Bradford. I share his story to just show startups where they can go and what they can become. So Reggie used to be our Oracle VP of product development, and he helped create the Oracle Startups program. So in 2012, we purchased from him a startup called True Leader, which is an application in social marketing. That was almost 10 years ago. We bought that software for a whopping 300 million. That's some life-changing money. Then he was part of a startup group called N2 Broadband. So N2 Broadband is a similar to Box Office on DSTV. All of us in Africa use DSTV. And this was acquired by Tandberg. And then he was part of WebMD. I know all of us during the pandemic have been on WebMD to check if you have any symptoms of COVID. He was part of the team that formed WebMD. And you can find this information on our YouTube page, Oracle's YouTube page. But all these companies together, he made $5 billion. So I share this story to show startups that you can start small and an Oracle will be interested in buying you, or a Microsoft, or whoever, a Tesla. So, and that's what we have done with our startups program, is create for you a program that can help you grow to the next level of an enterprise. So just recently, we just acquired a startup that joined our program. So this is our latest acquisition that joined us in April 2020. So right when the pandemic started in April, we bought Source Video. So Source Video creates a solution that helps companies create digital video content to collaborate with their customers and employees. They are a small startup that was based out of India. They were skeptical about getting on the Oracle platform, and lo and behold, they get on our platform, they really succeed, and Oracle says, you know, we like your solution, we want to buy you. And we bought them. So the amount of money that we paid for them is yet to be disclosed, but I know it will soon be on our site. It would be unfair for me not to share the success stories of who Oracle is. So this is huge. Our life as we know it in March 2020 changed. And it changed and things happened. If you were on Zoom at some point, kids were going through seeing things that they should not be seeing. Zoom was being hacked. And Zoom decided, you know, let's figure out a partner who can help us get on a platform that has scalability, is reliable, has superior cloud security, and they came to Oracle. And so this is a big story for us, because we just always want to share what we can do for organizations as large as Zoom. And as you sit right now, we are on a Zoom platform. Even during the migration, we Oracle employees didn't notice the migration. But most importantly, what has happened is security. Now people's webinars, meetings, you're not finding random people just strolling in and doing funny things. So that was huge for Zoom. So that's a big success for us, and just shows the superiority of the platforms that we have created for our customers. So it's a virtuous cycle of innovation where our startups, we create mutual beneficial partnerships, connecting them to customers, building the startups, and creating amazing opportunities. So everybody wins. When you join our Oracle for Startups program, you get 70% discount for 2 years plus. And this is our differentiator. There's many startup programs over there giving free things. We don't give free forever, we give free for a while. And that's because we need you to remain entrepreneurial. We want you to grow. We want you to think of, where do I get the next dollar? How do I grow? How do I go into a new market? How do I become the next Oracle? How do I get an Oracle to be interested in buying my solution? So we help you with getting to meet customers who you would naturally not be able to open some of those doors. We help you stay competitive by helping you with product development and thinking through your solution so that it meets your market and beyond. So we prepare you with our groundbreaking technology anchored on a secure, scalable Oracle Cloud. We showcase your startup through our global events. So pre-pandemic, we had Oracle Open World, where you could travel and showcase your solutions. Now we're doing them virtually, but it still gives you a digital platform to meet customers and audiences that you naturally wouldn't meet in your small spaces and stuff. And then those business building introductions. Like I had a startup sitting out of Kenya that wanted to meet a telco client based out of Mozambique. The telco client was fortunately an Oracle customer, and we were able to open that door. So I said we bought sauce. We bought sauce. We had not taken equity. When you join our program, we don't take equity. We're very serious about that. We are open to startups and innovators worldwide. Whether you're in the business to business space, the business to consumer space, you are welcome. There's no application process. So even as I sit here and talk to you about our Oracle for Startups program, you can check out our site and sign up. You get free cloud credits the minute you sign up. You get migration assistance, and these are the small differentiators. When you get on our platform, we just don't leave you to sink on your own. We are there to help you navigate our platform and succeed on our platform. You get mentorship. Like one of my startups really wanted to transition their marketing and create a great digital marketing strategy. And so we have a pool of mentors who are able to help her get into that space. Our startup portal offers on-demand access to exclusive program benefits. So the program has vast benefits, and qualifying startups can take advantage of our business boosting market connections. So startup-friendly cloud built for enterprise. And this is key. We, Oracle, are an enterprise company. Our target audience has always been big companies. So we want our startups to join with the aim of becoming a big startup like an Oracle. We're superior performance with easier migrations. And that's why I said sometimes being last, getting into the door is good, because how you build your solution is different, addressing some of the challenges you've seen in the market. So no vendor lock-in. Remember I said no equity, no vendor lock-in. If you land on our startup platform today and tomorrow it's not suiting your needs, you don't like it, the same way you got in there with ease, the same way you can leave. We have integration with enterprise applications, and that's because we've been in the enterprise space for so long. We know that people use our solutions, so we have APIs that have been built to integrate with very, very many applications. Simple pricing structure and licensing. Again, this attributes to the fact that we are latecomers, so we had to offer better value than everyone else who was already in the market. And this is what we boast about. Industry's first network performance SLA. We can sing about this until kingdom come. So a few startups that have joined our startup program. So I am only focusing a few of who are in Africa and one from Turkey. So Biashara Africa, this is actually a female founded startup. It was my first startup in East Africa. She has an e-commerce platform. She targets the low economic vendor who will not have access to a digital platform. So she creates opportunities for e-commerce selling, helping them does data analytics for their goods to show which goods are moving fast, which goods people are interested in, and also does logistics distribution. Then Tech Shelter. Tech Shelter is an aggregator that connects a farm from farm to fork or farm to table, and links various greengrocers to getting their goods sold. Evreka is our startup from Turkey. This one has a good story. They have a solution that has AI embedded in it. So basically, if you, I'll give an example of somewhere in South Africa, in Johannesburg, and maybe you're on, I don't know, somewhere in Sandton, and you have a trash company that picks trash every day. So what they did is created a gadget that could be put on the trash bins that would send communication back to the company that collects the trash to notify them if the trash bin is ready for collection. So basically, they just made operations and efficiency a lot better, saving money. So you find that this has been taken up by a lot of cities or municipalities in Turkey. But the best part where it shows Oracle's ability to connect you to different markets was we had a customer sitting out of France who was interested in waste collection solutions. So they asked us if we had a waste collection solution. We said no, but one of our startups does. So our startup sitting in Turkey responded to an RFI to a company in France. Look at the opportunities we create. And then Awini, I like talking about Awini because Awini is the Uber for trucks. They're based out of Saudi, and I hope they'll roll out their Uber for trucks for everyone. So I talked about free cloud credits. So free cloud credits, you get 500 free cloud credits when you join. After you consume the first 500, you get another $1,000 worth of cloud credits. And then after that, you get 70% discount cloud credits for 2 years after that. So I talked about our Market Connect. Over and above that, we give you opportunities to talk about your story. So we have a platform where we create podcasts, and you can use that link to share with various audiences to get more awareness of your solution. And so with the brand power of Oracle, that goes a long ways for a small startup. So the benefits are a click away. Go to our portal. You'll see the Market Connect, the credits program, the mentorship, the virtual library. So we do not discriminate. And I'm going to say we make mistakes. So when we started our program, we were a little picky on who's going to join. We were looking for startups who had been a startup for like 5 years, have figured out their product, are making money. You don't necessarily have to be profitable. But then Larry said, why are you picky? Just let the startups come. If they're in ideation phase, come and build on our platform. If you've moved on and you're ready to roll out, move it to our platform. So now we welcome all, whether you're starting, whether you're mature, whether you just want a better platform, come one, come all. Startup of any size, in the B2B space, B2C space, you're welcome. You are targeting to address a large market. We're a large company, so we know how this works. And if you want to get to a big market, we will help you get to a big market. Looking for enterprise? Oracle. Secure, robust, value price cloud? We are the place to be. And then access to global customers and marketing exposure. So oracle.com, and everything from there is easy peasy and straightforward. Okay. Any questions? And I will stop sharing now.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Ellie. Thanks for the informative presentation. And these are some of the things that in our partnership with PAICTA, we are taking to the space. So the poll is up. I will not be doing my job, Ellie, if I didn't ask if anyone would be interested in the Oracle startup, especially because we've got 53% of our audience being startups. So there we go. Please join in and vote with us.
And sorry, Amina, just to add, PAICTA is not only in South Africa, we are in all countries or trying to cover all countries in Africa. So you're welcome. Come on board.
Yeah. Great. So we're matching the 53% of entrepreneurs that are saying most definitely they would like there are startups, first of all, and we're matching that same 50% as startups that are interested in enrolling in the program. We've shared the link. Our details, Ellie's details will be shared on the chat. Drop her an email. Let's get engaged. Let's start talking to her and see how much we can do to help each other. On that note, I'd like to invite you, Ms. Mdwaba, to give us closing remarks from your side, representing the WiDE and the Oracle partnership, and actually do a vote of thanks to all our sponsors and everyone that has participated in the session today. And then I'll close off by sharing with you a couple of things that we've got on the roadmap. This is not the last entrepreneurship conversation. We've got another conversation that is coming up, our part 2 of this discussion. We will still be talking to the model, the financing model, in terms of how do we get access to these, to incubating these ideas. How do, we've spoken in the conversation about a whole lot of things, but there are barriers into the entry, and one of them is funding, and we know that. We'll be having that. And Ellie, we took your challenge. We've got a hackathon coming. We are going to address the question, the what. We are going to address the why, And we hope to use this platform as well to disseminate this information to the rural areas. Yashmita, you spoke about us having to actually go to grassroots level in order to help find these solutions. So we're asking you to join us in this journey to identifying and supporting these young youth or entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs, male entrepreneurs. We welcome all in this journey, but we are not apologetic about the fact that we want to advance the cause of the females in getting them into the spaces that they have not entered. Mr. Mdwaba, I will say thank you for giving me the opportunity to facilitate the conversation this afternoon. And I look forward to the things that we're going to achieve together in this partnership. And I'd like you to then do the vote of thanks, to thank our panelists, as well as to thank our partners that we are partnering with as PAICTA, WiDE, Oracle Women in Partnership, to do and deliver some of these activities. And last but not least, it's my word of thanks to each and every one of you ladies who've taken your time out to share your thoughts, to share your experience, to share your knowledge in terms of your journeys, different in the corporate space, as entrepreneurs, the things that drive you to do this. And to all our attendees on the call, I'd also like to extend a personal thank you for interacting, the shout outs that we've seen, the questions that we've seen. We hear after this call, you're welcome to drop us an email. We will be sharing some of the links as our post communication for this event, and we invite you to join us to our future event. Mr. Mdwaba, thank you. Thanks, everyone. Over to you to close.
Thank you very much to everyone. Amina has done a splendid job. Thank you very much for all the panelists, the attendees. I know time is money. I know time is precious in many other ways except money. You've really gone out or come out to support us. We are a new organization. It was a very insightful, very challenging discussion that has taken place. It really reinforces in my mind why PAICTA exists. Where in the next webinars that are going to be coming and all other initiatives that we're taking in partnership with Oracle or Oracle Women in Leadership, we are aware now on areas or reinforced areas that we need to focus in, that it is important not to be selfish. It is important for us to build for tomorrow. Building the rural and peri-rural areas, it is and addressing the challenges in those areas without making the millions that people, or making a lot of money individuals rich. It is important for the girl child to be uplifted, to be mentored, to be developed, to be nurtured, to achieve what she was created to be. I believe, I'm very spiritual. I believe that God has put us together for a reason. Nothing just happened by chance. In the next coming sessions, it will be clear why PAICTA believes in collaboration, why PAICTA believes in partnerships. The what and why is going to be addressed as we go forward. Dissemination of information is critical. The right information that to be disseminated, not the wrong information. So I thank everyone. May God bless and protect and keep you well until we meet again. We will be updating everyone on all the progress that we're going to be doing, or routes that we're going to be taking, or path or roadmap that we're going to be undertaking. It is important for us in partnership with OWL to know that even tomorrow you are there to support us and make sure that we achieve the objective of WiDE. Thank you very much.
Thank you. On that note, we would like to thank everyone, and we will stop the recording of the session. There are questions, some of them we will manually address.